Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind YouTube channel. Welcome in if you are new. My name is Bob Van, the IDP Man, and today I'm bringing you my top 12 defensive backs for 2021 fantasy football. Let's get to it. Last week I dropped my top 24 IDP rankings over all positions, and I realized I didn't show a lot of love to the defensive back or defensive lineman position. So today I'm bringing you my top 12 defensive backs to get on your teams in 2021. And while I'm only dropping the defensive back video today, keep your eyes peeled for the defensive lineman video coming shortly. And here we have my top 12 IDP rankings for the defensive back position. I'm not going to dive into anything too crazy with like Jamal Adams, Buda Baker. Those two are pretty much interchangeable at the top position, if you ask me, very similar to Darius Leonard and Devin White. I just like Jamal Adams. I think they've found a unique role for him in that defense, and I really foresee him being the torchbearer going forward as opposed to Bobby Wagner as he ages out of his prime and, eventually ends his career. I think if there's anything that I'm going to catch a lot of flack with in these rankings, it's Jeremy Chin at number 3. And I think it's a multitude of reasons for that. I think when you look at the players that's usually there, like Jordan Poyer, he's getting older. I've kind of seen, or I've kind of felt that he's due to regress at some point and start aging out of his prime. Jabril Peppers is a solid player, but I just don't feel confident ranking him too highly yet. I think he kind of is what he is in this point, and I don't think he's really ascending anymore. I just think he's a really good talent. I don't know if he'll ever crack number one. I would say it's possible just because of the fact that, with him returning kicks and everything like that, and then just being so involved in that defense. And, kudos to the Giants for, taking a player that was considered washed on the Browns, essentially, that wasn't finding a role, wasn't getting his feet wet, and they they turned him into a top 10 defensive back in the league, or a top 10 safety in the league, would you rather? So for me, I like him up there, but I don't quite like him more than Jordan Poyer. I think if there's anybody else in these rankings that I'm really going to catch flack for, it's probably number 11, Taylor Rapp. And, a lot of my credit here is with John Johnson leaving and going to Cleveland. I think that, last year it was a mix between John Johnson was still getting pretty much all the reps, but then Taylor Rapp and Jordan Fuller were pretty much left to split a role essentially. And, Taylor Rapp was hurt last year too, so was Jordan Fuller. It was just kind of a mess in the DB room, if you ask me. But with John Johnson leaving, I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp was somebody that I loved right away coming out of college. He was my DB1 his rookie year, and basically didn't miss a tackle in his college career, which I think is crazy. So he profiles as a great tackler. And he's shown that he's he's not a coverage linebacker. That is not his thing. His thing is being in the box, being a tackling safety, and pretty much that's what you get with him. And I think you know, I'm okay with that. In a lot of leagues, I shouldn't say most leagues, but a lot of leagues, you can get by with a strong tackling safety. They give you a lot of floor. Oddly enough, I was asked yesterday why I had Taylor Rapp ranked so highly. And for all this included, and then, over Jordan Fuller, a lot of people have Jordan Fuller over Taylor Rapp. And while I think Jordan Fuller profiles more as a John Johnson, where he can play free, he can play some strong, he's a more fluid safety. I just like the overall consistency that I think Taylor Rapp is going to bring. They don't have a great linebacker core there on the Rams. It's Troy Reader, it's, Kenny Young, Ernest Jones. They cut Micah Kaiser. So I wouldn't call that linebacker room overly reliable. So they're going to bring a safety down to help out consistently, if you ask me. And I just think that, kind of similar to John Johnson, Jordan Fuller will give you those kind of peaks and valleys of good production. Whereas I think Taylor Rapp will give you more of a consistent floor week in, week out. He might not have those big boom games, but I'm somebody who values consistency, and that's why I have him this high. And like I said, he was my DB1 his rookie season. I was pumped on him coming out. So there might be a little bit of like homerism here, but it is what it is. Another person I might get a little bit of flack for is probably Landon Collins. And a lot of that is, he's coming back from an Achilles injury. But another guy who is like one of my favorite defensive players in the league And, this dates back to like my first IDP league. He was like one of my first IDPs I drafted. He was on my first IDP championship team. So there might be some homerism here, but again, I do think that he plays he'll play a pivotal role. And I think another guy who doesn't profile a ton as a coverage safety, he's more of that. Put him in the box, get him to tackle people, and send him after the quarterback. But he's been able to make plays consistently throughout his career and have a lot of boom games as well. I think I would have him ranked a little higher if it weren't for the Achilles injury. Those are hard to come back from, as we know. Especially he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's Landon Collins is a guy who probably could be a little lower, but arguably could be higher. Speaking of guys that could probably be higher on this list, and that's Justin Simmons. I could see him. I could realistically put him as high as number 6, I think. And I think a lot of that is because similar situation where he's a do-it-all safety. He can play strong, he can play free, he can play whatever he wants essentially in that Fangio defense. And so I could see myself ranking him as high as Darwin James. That's kind of a bit of a tier there where I would say after Justin Simmons, it drops down to Taylor Rapp and Landon Collins and the few players listed after them. And then the last player I think I really want to touch on is Derwin James. And my I almost think that my ranking of him at number 6 is almost generous because he's really only had a good rookie season. Profiled as a great player out of college, don't get me wrong, but he's essentially a year removed from playing in the NFL. He only played 5 games in the season that he last played in due to another injury. So he looks really good this preseason. He looks good in camp. There was a lot of coverage on him looking really good, fit, all that nonsense. And so I think, like I said, he's somebody who I think could be a lot lower. I think I could have him at 10 and I'd be pretty comfortable. That's why I kind of put that tier there where it's Jamal Adams, Buda Baker tier 1, Chin through Peppers tier 2, then James through Simmons tier 3, and then it's probably a pretty significant tier after Taylor Rapp and Collins into the following players. So that is it for my top 12 defensive back rankings. I know it was kind of a quicker video, but I just wanted to get those out to you guys. If you want to dive further into my IDP rankings, you can use the link in the description box below. Send you to my free rankings, all positions. If you have further questions about any of these guys, feel free to comment down below, ask any question you like. I'll be happy to answer those as they come in. And like I mentioned, I did drop a top 24 IDP rankings that are very linebacker heavy. You should check that video out if you haven't yet. And then also, I'll be dropping a defensive lineman top 12 video later this week. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. Check out these other videos on the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That is it for me today. I hope y'all have a good one.